to the conclusion of the book and reading the Part 3 analysis of In the Untuning of the Sky, Music and English Poetry, and finishing reading the analysis of Alexander's Feast, or The Power of Music by John Dryden. For all of Alexander's Feast has gone to praise not only the power and glory of earthly effective music, but it has gone to praise poetry as well. It is Timotheus, the myth maker, the forger of fictions, who is commended at the beginning of the poem and at the end and throughout its course. The ode seems to depend upon almost bootlegged poetic references, such as the measures of line 97 and the argument about love and war and love in the lines following. It is, at any rate, the, quote, goddess persuasion, who, as Shakespeare put it, quote, must have been in a manner the mother of poetry, rhetoric, music, and other kindred arts. That triumphs at the conclusion of the celebration of music. Both as a libretto and as a poem, Alexander's Feast commends the power of that goddess. The brilliant musical dramaturgy of the cantata text gives way on reading to the marvelous metrical effects, which not only serve themselves to excite calm chasten, but to imitate in some way the actual musical setting that they would receive, in which they would be emulated. The poem is a musical ode. In many of the senses suggested by that compound, an ode set to about purporting to resemble and even substituting for music. More than that, it implicitly stipulates for its own age and for successive ones as well that music is and how it should be considered. It is to be made rather than, as in the first ode, to be expounded like doctrine. He's saying that music should be to be made rather than in the first ode to be expounded like doctrine, even if that doctrine puts down all the cosmological orthodoxies about the music of the universe. You think he untuned the sky when he put down the music of the universe? It is a very real reason the 1687 ode contains a program for the latter one, just as it sums up so succinctly not the history of music in the lives of Western men, but the history of what those men have thought and felt and imagined that very music to be, music itself, practical music, the music of opera and public concert, the music of the highly trained, status-seeking professional is the hero, or in its variousness of hero, heroine of, quote, a song for St. Cecilia's Day. It has untuned the sky in the sense that it has already rendered the notion of heavenly music, whether it has an actuality or in any one of the many active metaphorical versions which we have studied above, as trivial, as it rendered silent the singing spheres. The untuned sky is the abandoned monochord of musica speculativa, and Alexander's Feast is no mere strand of exemplum from that ancient instrument, but a brilliant performance whose only lesson is its own worth. Oh dear. Dear, you say read it again as soon as I close it.
When you say the untuned sky.
The untuned sky is the abandoned monochord of musica speculativa. And Alexander's Feast is no mere strand of exemplum from that ancient instrument, but a brilliant performance, whose only lesson is its own worth. It has untuned the sky in the sense that it has already rendered the notion of heavenly music, whether as an actuality or in any one of the many actual metaphorical versions which we have studied above, as trivial as it rendered silent the singing spheres. We read the conclusion to the book, The Untuning of the Sky, and Part 3 analysis of Alexander Feast of John Dryden. We conclude this reading with some reading from the poem. What are they saying? He's saying
what he said about the untuning, what it means.
What it means to him.
What he means.
What he means, what it means to him. He's the author of a book.
Yeah, but read it again.
I just read it twice. I read it twice.
Say it then.
There we have Poet Laureate of England. Let him speak.
Okay, tell me then, what do you remember?
Oh, goodness. The untuning of the sky.
Do you agree with that?
He shouldn't untune. He shouldn't render silent the music of the spheres.
But that's what it says.
What's it say?
Read it then.
I can't read it again. Alexander Feast, or the power of music. 'Twas at the royal feast for Persia, won by Philip's warlike son. Aloft in awful state, the godlike hero sate. On his imperial throne, his valiant peers were placed around, their brows with roses and myrtles bound. So shall desert in arms be crowned, the lovely Thais by his side sate like a blooming Eastern bride in flower of youth and beauty's pride. Happy, happy, happy pair, but none but the brave, none but the brave deserves the fair Timotheus, placed on high. Amid the tuneful choir with flying fingers touch the lyre, and the trembling notes ascend the sky. And heavenly joys inspire, the song began, which from Jove, who left his blissful seats above. Thus is the power of mighty love. Dragon's fury form belied the god, sublime on radiant spires he rode. But he to fair Olympia pressed, and while he sought her snowy breast, then round her slender waist he curled, stamped an image of himself, a sovereign of the world. The listening crowd admire the lofty sound of present deity. They shout around a present deity, the vaulted roofs rebound. With ravished ears, the monarch hears, assumes the god, affects to nod, and seems to shake the spheres. The praise of Bacchus, then the sweet musician sung of Bacchus, ever fair, ever young, the jolly god. In triumph comes sound, the trumpets beat, the drums flushed with purple grace. He shows his honest face, but now the hot boy's breath. He comes, Bacchus ever fair and young, drinking joys did first ordain. Bacchus's blessings are a treasure, drinking is the soldier's pleasure, rich the treasure, sweet the pleasure, sweet is pleasure after pain. Soothed with the sound, the king grew vain, fought all his battles over again, and thrice he haunted all his foes, and thrice he slew the slain. The master saw the madness rise, his glowing cheeks, his ardent eyes, and while his heaven and earth defied, changed his hands and checked his pride. He chose the mournful muse, soft pity to infuse. He sung, Darius great and good, by too severe a fate, fallen from his high estate, and weltering in his blood, deserted at his utmost need, By those his former bounty fed, on the bare earth exposed he lies, with not a friend to close his eyes. With downcast looks the joyless victor sate, revolving in his altered soul the various turns of chance below. And now and then a sigh he stole, and tears began to flow. The mighty master smiled to see that love was in the next degree. 'Twas but a conjured sound to move, for pity melts the mind to love, softly sweet in Lydian measures. Soon he soothed the soul to pleasures, where he sung his toil and trouble, honor but an empty bubble, never ending, still beginning, fighting still, and still destroying, if the world be worth thy winning. Oh, think, oh, it worth enjoying, lovely Thais, it's beside thee. Take the good the gods provide thee. The many rend the skies with loud applause. So love was crowned, but music won the cause. The prince, unable to conceal his pain, gazed on the fair he caused his care, and sighed and looked inside and looked inside and looked inside again, and at length with love and wine at once oppressed, a vanished victor sunk upon her breast. Now strike the golden lyre again. A louder yet, and yet a louder strain, break his bands of sleep asunder, and rouse him like a rattling peal of thunder. Hark, hark, the horrid sound. He raised up his head, and as awakened from the dead, he amazed, he stares around. Revenge, revenge, Timotheus cries. See the furies arise. See the snakes at their rear, how they hiss in their hair, and their sparkles that flash from their eyes. Behold, a ghastly band, each a torch in his hand. These are the Cretan ghosts, that in battle were slain, and unburied remain inglorious on the plain. Give the vengeance due to the valiant crew. Behold how they toss their torches on high, how they point to the Persian abodes, the glittering temples of their hostile gods. The princes applaud with a furious joy, and the king seized the flambeau with zeal to destroy. Thais led the way, she lit him to his prey, and like another hound fired another Troy. Thus long ago, ere heaving bellows learned to blow, while organs yet were mute, Timotheus to his breathing flute the sounding lyre could swell the soul to rage or kindle soft desire. At last divine Cecilia came, inventress of the vocal frame, the sweet enthusiast from her sacred store, enlarged the former narrow bounds, and added length to solemn sounds, with nature's mother wit and arts unknown before. Yet let old Timotheus yield the prize, or both divide the crown. He raised a mortal to the skies, she drew an angel down. Is he saying that he won? I don't know what he's saying about. He doesn't say much about St. Cecilia.
Oh, she just raised some living to the heavens, and the angels down to earth, so she achieved more blessings.
We are reading the grand conclusion to the untuning of the skies. And we had read the poetry of John Dryden's Alexander Feast.